The Justice Department filed suit against the state of Arizona over the new immigration law. Here is a piece of that filing. In our constitutional system, the federal government has preeminent authority to regulate immigration matters. This authority derives from the United States Constitution and numerous acts of Congress. The nation's immigration laws reflect a careful and considered balance of national law enforcement, foreign relations, and humanitarian interests. Now, the court filing says Arizona's law preempted the federal law, therefore violates the Constitution, as you heard there. But it makes no assertion that the law is discriminatory in any way. As the president has said, administration officials have said, every time they've talked about Arizona's law. Here's the reaction tonight, just released from Arizona's Governor Jan Brewer. Quote, as a direct result of failed and inconsistent federal enforcement, Arizona is under attack from violent Mexican drug and immigrant smuggling cartels. Now Arizona is under attack in federal court from President Obama and his Department of Justice. Today's filing is nothing more than a massive waste of taxpayer funds. What about all of this? Let's bring in our panel tonight. Bill Kristol, editor of the Weekly Standard. Mara Liasson, national political correspondent of National Public Radio, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Charles.
Well, I thought it was interesting that the filing, as you said, was exclusively on the grounds of federal supremacy. You would have thought that the federal government, especially Obama and his administration, have spoken out about how they're offended by what they see as the potential for civil rights abuses in the law. But that isn't the basis of the suit. I looked at it and I may have missed it, but I don't see an iota of that element in there. So it's narrowly on the grounds of that this is the province of the federal government. I'm glad that the suit is brought. I want the judiciary to make a ruling on this. I think the state is going to win, and after that I think it'll open the way for other states and localities to do what the federal government is not doing. And the reason I think it'll win is because, A, it's very clear, and I think that Arizona will make a case, the federal government is in dereliction of its duties. It is not enforcing the border. And second, the federal argument in this, that somehow Arizona arresting people who are here illegally is impeding or adding a burden on the federal government, is fatuous. In fact, it is assisting. It's if the feds are going to argue that we're undermanned, well, here you have Arizona sort of volunteering its police, its officials to go out to find and to turn over to the federal government people who are here illegally. So if anything, it's a form of assistance. I think it's going to lose, and I think it'll be a good day when this lawsuit loses.
Yeah, Mara, there is no civil rights charge against the Arizona law in this filing, one. And two, it's interesting, the back and forth. I mean, at one side, the suit says Arizona can't do this because it's the federal government's job. But then also Arizona is burdening the federal government because if they do it, they're going to send too many people our way, federal government's way.
Well, first of all, I think that if they are going to charge that civil rights have been violated, for instance, American citizens pulled over as if they were illegals and racially profiled, I think that has to happen first, and then there could be and then there can be people who sue on those grounds, and maybe the federal government would join in on those suits. But I think the argument that the United States government is not enforcing the border, you're going to have to define that, because they've got thousands of people down there, and they've got 1,200 more troops, and they've got surveillance, and they've got a wall being built. I mean, there certainly is a big effort going on to police the border. It might not be possible to keep everybody out, and that is why you need some kind of solution to this problem once and for all, some kind of comprehensive solution to immigration.
Charles, any response?
Enforcement is not dependent on amnesty. You can enforce today.
I say there should be amnesty.
You don't have to have a comprehensive solution. You can have that in the end. But if you want to enforce the border, it can be done today in the absence of any new legislation. All you have to use is what we have today.
Bill, two Republican senators, John McCain and Jon Kyl, quickly releasing statements saying that the federal government should not be suing Arizona. They should be stepping up the security along the border. What about this, how it's playing out politically?
Look, I think it is a political gimmick in this sense. I talked to two appellate lawyers this afternoon who looked over the case law, and they think it's a very thin case. At best, it's a sort of arguable close call for the federal government, and most likely they will lose. I mean, having preeminent authority over immigration, which the federal government does have, doesn't mean you have preemptive authority. It doesn't mean the states can't do anything. And indeed, there's a well-known case from 1976 where the Supreme Court precisely held in an immigration context that the states can also legislate. They can supplement and complement federal legislation, which is why, as you were saying, Brett, they then have to argue, well, this impedes and burdens us. But since the Arizona law pretty much mirrors the federal law, it's hard to see what it impedes or burdens. So I think the federal government's going to have a tough time making the case, which really, so from a strictly legal point of view, if you're in the Solicitor General's office, they do not bring close call cases against laws that have been passed by a Democratic legislature that haven't been enforced yet, even. You can't really prove it's a burden yet. As Mara said, they haven't done anything. So why are they bringing this case? They're bringing this case because it's part of the president's attempt to rally Hispanic voters for November.
And they are seeking a preliminary injunction to prevent the law from moving forward. What about Governor Brewer and her pushback in all of this and saying that they'll be aggressively defending the law? She's just tweeted moments ago that she's asking for money to help keep Arizona safe in this lawsuit. What about all of that? She'll get plenty, right?
It sort of makes her into a David and Goliath character. It's a state against the federal government. I think she has a case. Look, they were really careful in drafting this. They knew it would be challenged. But that's why I think it's got a good chance of succeeding. A defense of the law has a good chance of succeeding because it wasn't drawn up willy-nilly. And particularly because the federal case is not about civil rights issues, where I think it might be more vulnerable. I think it's a case that the state will likely win. It's going to make her a bit of not a national hero, but it'll make her name.